This is Sons of the Flag Radio, brought to you by Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio. Our mission at Sons of the Flag is to revolutionize burn care and the quality of life for veterans, first responders, and families. Sons of the Flag believes that the future of burn care resides in research and development. Our vision is to accelerate the process of testing leading technologies and pushing them into circulation for immediate use by burn survivors across the nation. We bring together passionate community leaders, pioneering physicians, dedicated first responders, and purposeful civilians to complete our mission. If you'd like to listen to this episode or any other Sons of the Flag episodes, then log on to Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio and look up Sons of the Flag. Be sure to also look up Sons of the Flag on all social media by typing in @Sons of the Flag. You can also access information about our missions at Sons of the Flag and a little bit more about of who we are in any of our upcoming events by logging onto our website at www.sonsoftheflag.org. As with all episodes, we like to start the evening honoring those that we've lost since our last episode. We're going to read a few names from the fireside, but we want to also make sure that we pause and honor our fallen law enforcement heroes and also our fallen military heroes since our last episode. So our fallen firefighters since our last show are Richard Hempel, Kyle Osgood, James Muller, Sean Daniel, William McHale, Stuart Hunt, Brian Latrent, and Bobby Smith. Let us take a moment of silence for these fallen heroes. Well, we've been trying for this one.
Yeah, we've been trying for this one. We lost you in Ireland for a little bit, but now we have an extremely special guest. And I think both of us have heard you sing.
Yeah. So I think since 2018, I joined Sons of the Flag in 2017, around that time. Mm-hmm. First Stars and Stripes event was 2018. And this gentleman got up on stage and belted out God Bless America like I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And had the whole room moved. And then I found out his backstory. And Landon and I have talked a little bit, and I've talked to him briefly there, but also having a conversation with Greg Turnell. I'm like, this is a conversation and an interview that we have to have. Yeah. And it's my absolute honor and my personal privilege to welcome you to Sons of the Flag Radio. Don Graves, Iwo Jima, Marine Corps, all-around amazing individual, preacher. You got a list of accolades that I could keep going on, but thank you so much for taking the time to be here today with us.
You forgot. And troublemaker.
Troublemaker. You're going to find that out really quick.
You know, you mentioned about the song, God Bless America. I can tell you how that song came about during the war. Kate Smith, wonderful singer, big lady, 200 pounds. She had a broadcast. Irving Berlin was with her. He wrote a few songs for her. And Irving Berlin was a great American. He escaped from Russia, came over the northern border, snuck in on a ship, and got to America, became one of the best songwriters. He wrote White Christmas.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He wrote a lot of songs for Bing Crosby. And this song is now almost taking the place of our national anthem.
It is.
And let's not disregard our national anthem.
No.
It's the greatest anthem was ever written.
Absolutely.
But it's becoming that popular. I got a knock on the door Saturday, and a gentleman all dressed up came to inside the door, and a young lady was with him and a cameraman. And he said, Don Graves. And now Mary knew about this, but she didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I'm down. He says, good. I have one question for you before we begin. Would you do us the honor of singing God Bless America at our grand opening in September at the North Texas Motor Speedway?
What?
I said, well, okay.
Yeah. That is awesome.
He laughed. He said, thank you.
That is absolutely
And he said,
amazing.
You have a beautiful VIP. I said, oh, thank you. I said, a party? He said, go ahead. It's all there.
That is
and
awesome.
You've been everywhere singing this for a while, haven't you? How long? When did you start doing the singing?
What I do now, it never happened. And I lived in 5 states. I was a preacher, and I moved 5 states. I retired at 82 in Tucson, Arizona. My wife was getting very bad. Complications of everything, but she just fell apart. And I called my daughter, and I said, I can't handle her. Dad, I've been there twice. It costs too much. You've got to move her to Texas. And I said, me from Detroit, move to Texas? Are you kidding me? She says, you have no choice. And I said, yeah, you're right. You hit me with that, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Well, all right, I'm coming.
Yeah.
The best move I ever made other than receiving Christ as my Lord and Savior.
Absolutely.
The greatest move. I love this state. I'll die here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything about the state. I love what the state stands for.
I just don't like the traffic we've got now.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where you go.
up.
Yeah. No, we wanted to have this conversation. Sons of the Flag, our mission's obviously burn care and taking care of those, but we also love speaking with our veterans, right? They have a story, and that story is important to our history. And I think we're at such a perilous time in our nation that we need to remember what this foundation was built upon. And it's built upon individuals like yourself who made sacrifices to leave their families and go overseas to serve the greater cause and make the world what it is. And, I think too many people these days have forgotten that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I had an uncle that died in Vietnam. I never had the honor or privilege to meet him. And it's always been my goal that I promised to my grandma and my family that I would carry his word on and his legacy. And I mean, if you look at us, we're spitting images of each other, so there's no denying them. But I want to make sure that my kids and future generations understand what it was that we've done and what we've sacrificed. I've toured Gettysburg. I've walked the battlefield at Gettysburg. I've studied the Battle of Little Round Top. And just to see firsthand, what we've dealt with here in the States is insurmountable to what you guys had to experience overseas. And I think this is a generation that we need to hear this story. The story has got to get out because these kids these days, and I speak for myself, I'm 39 years old, and I do know what happened. I do understand what happened, but these kids now have got to remember what sacrifices took place and what destruction the world saw. But there was a reason for it, and it's individuals like yourself are the reasons why we did it. We fought to have the greater good win, and we were going to conquer evil, and we did. And I think that's one thing we've got to always remember.
You've touched on a very sensitive topic. I speak in high schools. I spoke in a school over at Granbury. The boys came in, and then we had 2 sessions, then the girls. The boys sat in. They were about to graduate. And I talked to them, and I got to talking about the greatest generation. I said, fellas, I have to tell you, we did not know during the war what they were talking about. Mm-hmm. We heard greatest generation. What do you mean greatest generation? What was so great about us? Well, after Iwo Jima, on the 6th week, we were released. I hit the beach day 1, 6 weeks earlier, with 300 men in my company. 6 weeks later, we were released by the 3rd Division. 18 of us walked down to the beach, no officers.
Yeah.
That's what those kids did. 7,000 killed, 20,000 wounded and taken off. There were married men among them.
Yep.
But the majority were a bunch of teenagers. Mm-hmm. And we acted and looked like it on the beach. We yelled, we screamed. We were mad.
Yeah.
And when I tell them this, these young men will just stare at me as though they never heard anything like this. We're not hearing it in the schools. Mm-mm. And I've had buddies that say, I'm not talking about it. I went through it once, and I said, you've got to talk about it.
You have to.
Because another war comes along, we got a bunch of kids just like us. They need to know what we went through and why we did it.
Yeah.
That's why I do what I do when I get into the schools.
Absolutely.
Something's wrong in school. We are not patriotic anymore. And I'll tell you what put me to shame a few weeks ago. I was in Normandy, and I stayed in a home of 2 French people, lovely people. You never saw so many flags in your life. Every backyard front of the house has an American flag together with a French flag.
Oh, man.
In the cemetery, it's an American flag and a French flag. And the caretakers of our cemetery are the people of that town.
Wow.
They take turns maintaining it. I was with Laramie Block. Good man, photographer. You probably know him. He does a lot of interviews. He did our trip for us. The money was raised through TikTok. We got $17,000 from people who wanted me to go to Ireland, because I'd always talk about, I've got to go to Ireland. One day, my grandma, if she were alive, she would be so excited about it. Her name was Dorothy, and her family all came from County Cork, Dublin. And so that's why I chose to go there.
Yeah.
It was just great. So he said, we're going to get up early in the morning. He had to take pictures. So he said, I have one place I want to go, and wherever you folks want to go, we'll go. And it was sprinkling. We pulled up next to 4 rows of beautiful young trees, about 12 feet high, and I thought it was a cemetery. So we walked in, and it wasn't. It's just trees with an American flag attached to each tree and the name of someone. And my buddy said to me, Don, how many trees do you think are here? And I said, I don't know. He said, we got to count them. Count one row. They're all the same, 4 rows. I came up with 335. Anybody listening knows what that figure is? Mm-hmm. The Twin Towers.
Yeah.
This is a wealthy Irish lady that followed the Twin Towers. Ireland was listening to everything that happened there. She bought that lot and bought those trees and had them planted and is paying a jetter to maintain it.
Wow.
You talk about patriotism.
Yeah.
There it is.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. I had goosebumps just all over my body. I just about broke down.
I've got them right now.
I just about broke down. This is what you see in the high school. I spoke in 2 high schools. There was our flag. There was their flag. They asked questions about America. Mm-hmm. France has never, they went through something. They were occupied.
Yeah.
We saw a chapel, and it's on the river, and everybody knows about this chapel, St. Paddy. Mm-hmm. He was in that chapel.
Okay.
That's where he went many years ago. And we went in the chapel, and a woman was there directing everything, and she told me all about it. And she said, she said, when you leave here, you're going to see another church, and be sure and walk in. We got to it, and it's called the Church of the Blood-Stained Pews. The pews are loaded with stained blood that are dried from the war. Our kids were shot up fighting the Germans, and they sat in those beaches waiting to get attended because they made a hospital out of that chapel. I mean, you can walk in there, and there it is. I have postcards with pictures on it. Yeah. People can't believe it.
Right.
Large blood spots on the seats. That's what these kids went through. Mm-hmm. And we don't have that kind of a love anymore and respect.
No.
Somewhere we've made mistakes, but it's got to start in the schools.
I agree.
It's got to start at junior high school because that's where everything starts.
Yeah. Yep.
From there on.
You said something so interesting. You talk about the greatest generation and being somebody who just only read it in the history books and stuff. We don't stop to think that it was just kids like the ones in high school. Y'all were just 18, 17 years old. There's obviously this great divide on how people are brought up in different generations, but y'all were kids that we see now. Had to become men like that.
I want to share something with the people that would be listening and with you, mm-hmm. if I may.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to get to where it all started. We were in the cemetery with all the crosses at Normandy, both beaches. And we got in there, and they put me in a wheelchair. I have a walker, and I use it when I have a lot of walking to do. Mm-hmm. And they put me in a wheelchair. They could push me around. So we're sitting there, and there's 6 of us. This is a group that go there every year, and they try and get Second World War veterans. How many do you think we have that went with us?
Say
3.
It's low numbers.
Won't be with us next year.
Yeah.
Well, here's what happened. We're sitting there, and it's quiet. Just a perfect quiet evening. And one of the men said, Don, don't you think it'd be proper for you to do one verse of Amazing Grace?
Oh,
And I sang it. I sang one verse. And when I ended, every one of us had tears in our eyes. Because those kids responded at 17 years old. Some went in at 16. Some tried to get in a little earlier. In the Marine Corps, you can't do it. You've got to have that birth certificate, and don't ever lie about it, because you'd be in trouble. That's what we had to do. We were sitting in a car in front of the house in Detroit. That's my hometown. The 8th of December, one day after Japan struck. We're sitting and listening to the big bands. We love the big band. Wish they were back, but it's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, the announcer interrupted. He said, ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast. The President of the United States is going to address the nation. Well, we didn't know what it was about.
Right.
And then on come our favorite hero, our greatest president, President Roosevelt, led us through the war and then died. And this is what he said. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy. United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked upon by the naval and armed forces of the Empire of Japan. I interpret the will of Congress and of the people. We shall gain triumphant victory, so help us God. It was something like that that stimulated us. 16 years old, the 3 of us sitting in that car. I said, tomorrow morning I'm skipping school. I'm going down and join the Marine Corps. And my buddy says, you can't. You got to be 17. You're going in the Marine Corps. I said, I'll get the paperwork and give it to my mother. She won't sign either. She went through the first word. She's not going to sign that paper. Yeah. I said, she'll sign it. No, she won't. I got up in the morning. I told my siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, don't say nothing to Ma. So I took off, and I ran all the way downtown, about a mile away, to the Federal Building downtown. I went up on the 4th floor. There's a gunny sergeant standing in the doorway. He said, what can I do for you, young man? I said, I want to sign up. I want to join up. He said, how old are you? I said, 16. I can't do it. You got to be 17 years old. Well, I've only got 6 months to go. He says, all right, come on in. He said, I'm going to give you a piece of paper. You take that paper to your mother and father. When you're 17, I said, I only got 6 months to go. When you're 17, have them both sign this paper. Bring it back to me. We'll do business. He said to me, do you want to do that? I said, yes, sir. He said, go. I ran all the way home. I was excited. And when I got through the kitchen door, my mom was standing there baking. And I said, my gosh, I skipped school. I forgot. And did she come at me with an Irish shillelagh? Oh, well, that was my grandmother's daughter. Oh, my gosh, she really whipped it into me. And she said, throw it away. I don't want anything to do with it. I went through one. I'm not going through this.
Yeah.
I went in the dining room, stuck it in the buffet drawer, put papers on top. So 6 months later, I turned 17. They had a birthday cake. We had family there. My dad was there. I didn't have a good father. He was gone a lot, not good. But he was there. And he was a Marine, the First World War. And he said, what do you got there? I said, it's a paper. I'm going to enlist in the Marine Corps. He said, give me that. Get a pen. He signed it. He said, Vera, sign this. She said, I'm not signing that. Vera, listen to me. And I stood there by my dad looking at my mother. He said, the boy quit school. He's doing odd jobs. He'll probably turn out to be a bum. Sign it. And when he said that, I looked at my mother like this. And she said, give me the paper. I said, yeah, yes. Yeah. She signed the paper. He signed it. I went back down and now I'm 17. I went down, and the gunny met me, he goes, "You're back again?" I said, "Yes, sir," and I'm 17. He said, "All right, I want to tell you something right now. You see that door over there?" I said, "Yes, sir." "You're going in that door, and you're going to meet a Navy doctor, and he's going to check you over inside and out from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. Do you want to do that?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Go." I'll never forget that physical. I will never forget it.
Oh, no.
Greatest experience of my life. Yeah, well, I got in, signed up. He gave us a little, and he said, "Now, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to call you and your mother and father. They're going to bring you down here at the train station. We're taking off for San Diego. You're going to go to boot camp." So that's the start of the United States Marine Corps. But a lot of kids, we were all 17 years old. Every now and then a married guy would be 20, 21 years old, you know. But that was it. And I when I came home, my mother said, "How does it feel to be a recognized member of the greatest generation?" And I looked at her. I said, "Ma, the heroes we left behind. 7,000 of my buddies on that island, 20,000 wounded, taken off, put aboard ship, many of them thrown overboard in sea, buried at sea." I said, "There is the heroes."
Yeah.
She's like, "Yes, son, you're right."
I want to ask you real quick, because I've read a couple articles that you've been associated with. You made mention during boot camp to, is it Sergeant Phelps, about him basically driving you.
Oh, Phillips?
Yeah, Phillips, sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
My glasses are all messed up. So it's
Gosh,
hard
I
to read.
hate that guy, but I love him.
Right. You want to elaborate a little bit?
He took a bunch of kids and made us Marines.
Yeah.
First thing he did one morning, he fell us out. We went to chow. I don't know what happened to me. I was washing my teeth, and it's 5:30. We got up at 5 o'clock, and I went off from my tent, and they're gone. I ran out, and there they are. They're marching down across the parade ground to the mess hall. I ran up. He knew I jumped in the back rank. He said, "Tune, halt, 1, 2, Grays, fall out." I fell out in front. He said, "What time did we go for chow?" I think it's 6 o'clock. Bam, bam, right upside each of my head. Open hands. I went down on the ground. And some of my buddies went, oh. He violated. We can't touch him, and he can come up and breathe in our face, but he can't touch us.
Yeah.
He let me have it. Everybody was saying, "Burn him. Turn him in. Burn him, Graves." I went. I had a phone call coming. So after training and that, after chow, I went down the phone. That's all we could do, make a phone call. No sweets at all. No boogie bait.
Yeah.
For 6 weeks. None. So I got on the phone and called. Well, my dad answered. I thought my mom would answer. He says, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well," and I told him all about it. He said, "Shut your mouth and go back to your tent. You wanted it, you got it, that's it." And I stood there and I said, "I didn't ask for that." I didn't ask for that. I went back, and by the end of the 6 weeks, all of us, we loved the guy. He made men out. He turned kids into men, Marines.
Yeah.
We thought we could lick the world.
My gentleman who I used to work with was a Marine drill sergeant, and he used to talk about how he felt fully responsible for every young man and young woman that came. He said every life of theirs. He said, "I knew when I lost one over in Iraq or Afghanistan."
Yeah.
He said, "and I remember their names." He said, "If I didn't do my job, if I wasn't as harsh as I could possibly be and wreck them and build them back up into the Marine that they needed to be, they wouldn't survive." And that's what has to be done. And that you had somebody like that built you into that is incredible.
There were 2 young boys, and they're war buffs, and they came to my home yesterday. High school kids, they come and see me, And I showed them pictures. They said, "Is that a boot camp picture?" That's it. That's our graduation picture. Hey, how was your sergeant? Well, I said, "That's him right there, and that's the corporal." And I said, he made Marines out of us. And he said, "Well, can you tell us some of the things that happened, you know?" And I told him all about it, you know. I didn't use the language, but I told him all about it. And I said, "You know, we all hated his guts, but we all respected him because he made men out of teenagers."
Yep.
When we first started, that morning that he made us fall out, he said, "I have 55 of you snot-faced kids, and they say I'm supposed to make men out of it. Well, we'll see." That was hard to take. Yeah, we knew we were in for something. I don't know how it is now. I don't know if it's the same or not. I don't think they could get away with what happened to us. I don't think so.
No, but I think that kind of goes back to the generational issue right now. You know,
Yes,
we
yes.
are missing that structure. And it's, again, it goes back to the school system. My wife's a first grade teacher. Well, she's going to third grade now. But just to watch the way that kids come in these days, they don't have that, you know, they're missing that level of respect.
Yeah.
And when teachers are unable to discipline, then we start having these lapses, right? Then we start getting these generational gaps, and then it doesn't, you know, the family life, parents are absent, parents or whatever, we're missing that thing. And it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes a third-party individual, such as a drill instructor, or, you know, in our case, maybe a fire academy instructor, to make you who you're supposed to be. Sometimes you got to look in different places. You've got to make that step forward and challenge yourself and be uncomfortable for a long time. And then again, you've got to be able to transform and endure the suffering and go forward. But again, it goes back to the generation stuff. You know, in my house, I've always believed that I don't want my son to be, he's going to respect me. I don't want him as my friend. I'm his dad.
Yeah.
And we're going to have that level of respect in the house, and he's going to understand why I'm hard on him. But at the same time, I want him to grow and I want him to evolve. And I think that's the same thing. I can't attest to the way it is in boot camp, but the generational thing, it's just almost a lack of ownership now in these relationships and building strong kids and strong, you know, individuals to grow up, you know, into.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point where, I mean, I grew up with a pretty disciplinary father. My father was a preacher, and you know, he'd let you know if you did something wrong, I never held against him the spankings or being upset or anything like that, because at a young age, I knew that he was my dad. Like, he needed to do something in order to instill in me what he needed to instill. And maybe it's absentee parenting, or I'm not too sure, but there is that. People feel like if the parent is too harsh on the child, or if the parent is stern on the child, then they're just doing something wrong. But that's really what you need. The world is not a nice place. It's not a kind area to just walk into. You need to understand that you're going to get kicked, and the only way that you can get back up is by learning from getting kicked a couple of times already.
Yeah. There's a difference of a father being harsh with his son so that he gets molded for the future. Other than what I had, he beat us.
Yeah.
Because he just wanted to beat us.
Yeah.
And we knew that. Kids know. They know.
They know.
Yeah.
They understand. Yeah.
So after boot camp, what was your first? Where did you first go after boot camp?
Pardon?
Where did you first go after boot camp? After boot camp, where did they send you?
When was it? When I graduated?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, where did you go?
You had 6. We did in 8 weeks what they do 13 weeks.
Oh.
Because there were so many kids
Yeah.
joining up. The parade ground, you couldn't walk across. And can you imagine all of our platoons in and out, one another? We never touched. We never touched. We swore we were going to slam it in one another. All right, oblique. Oh, moved us just like that.
Wow.
We were sharp on that. I'll tell you, we marched. We really did.
Wow. So where did you go after boot camp? So
Well, when I graduated, I went over to New Zealand,
okay.
and we trained further with a anti-tank battalion. We were all assigned to that. I drove a pickup truck, and it had a 37 millimeter gun on it, anti-tank gun, and there were 4. There were 2 in the back and 2 of us in front. I have hearing aids. that rifle with that gun, we used to fire it on the run, it would crack in my head.
Oh.
Sharp crack. And eventually, a few years after I got out working, she said, "You've got a loss of hearing." Every year it went down. So finally I went to VA and they checked me. "You're going on hearing aids."
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, so my ears were damaged from that. Yeah.
So,
but we were with them for about 18 months.
okay.
And then we were loaded for bear, ready to go to an island, and they canceled out on us because the half tracks that were there were bogging down. We have anti-tank 75 millimeter half tracks.
Okay.
They bogged down. They broke us up. Roosevelt did this.
Mm-hmm.
I have something interesting to tell you. Why Iwo Jima came about. An admiral was in a Navy gathering, a Navy league. I spoke, and when I got through, I said, "Are there any questions?" The admiral got up and said, "Don," he said, "I have something to say." "Yes, sir." He said, "I want you to know that I spent every day during the war at the Pentagon. I never boarded ship." And he said, "I want to tell you how Iwo Jima came about." He said, the president called MacArthur and my boss, Admiral Nimitz, Chester B. Nimitz, great man. I love the guy. Both those guys had other men, and they were all assembled there. In comes the president in his wheelchair. He's got leggings on. Mm-hmm. He's got his cane with him. And he wheels right up to the chart that big. He takes his stick, and he says, "Gentlemen," and he reached up and he pointed to a spot 600 miles from Japan. It was called Iwo Jima. And he said, "Do you know where I'm pointing?" MacArthur didn't know. Nobody knew. Admiral Nimitz stood up. He said, "Mr. President, if I'm not mistaken, you were touching an island called Iwo Jima." "Exactly. I want that island." And Nimitz says, "Sir, I want that island. It's got to be removed because we're sending B-29 directly and back." Some of them dropped in the ocean. They had no place to land. Mm-hmm. Iwo Jima was in the way, and they were notifying them that we're on our way over there.
Yeah. And
that's what they received. They got shot up. Well, after that all settled, direct bombing 24 hours a day. That's how Iwo Jima started. Yeah.
That is always wild because I've always heard through my interpretation that it was a stronghold that was basically a critical point that we needed to capture.
Absolutely. We didn't understand that in the beginning. Mm-hmm. When we were released, I mentioned there were 18 of us left coming off the island. Mm-hmm. Well, we of our regiment, our battalion, walked down by the gate of the cemetery, and our regimental commander, Harry the Horse Liversidge, First World War, bellow wood decorated.
Wow.
And he led the regiment. My battalion commander caught 105 short right behind him, blew the CP up and killed him instantly, of course. Mm. And he said, "I want you to assemble by that gateway, and I want you to walk in, and I want you to say goodbye to your buddies and your officers." We walked in one by one. This is in the books. There was a piece of paper tacked on the left arch. Every Marine read it when we went through. When I came to it, this is what I read. I tell this wherever I speak. "Fellas, when you go home, tell the folks we did our best, that they may have many more tomorrows." Every eye came off a Marine that walked through that. We don't cry easy, but we sure shed tears for that one. I'll never forget that. Yeah.
What a golly.
Schools should hear that, and I tell them about it.
No, I think that's a part of the history that we're missing. There's an emotional aspect, and we could see photos and read stories all day long, but till you see that real connection, and you're reading those words and saying your goodbyes to everybody, that's where it's real. we're missing that, and I think if more people could understand that side of history and that part of the story, I think overall we would be better off, and we would have more respect for the generations before us, the Korean generation, the Vietnam generation, obviously your generation.
I'm bold enough to make a statement. I make it all the time. I tell young boys this. We are going to have a fight.
Yeah.
And you know who it's going to be. It's not going to be Russia. It's going to be China.
Yeah.
They are going to try something. Japan did it. They're following the same pattern that country to country to country. He tried to do it.
Yeah.
Putin tried, but we intercepted.
Yeah.
China is getting ready for something. They're not doing this just to harass us.
No.
Something, and the boys better in school. They better learn right now in school what happened in the First and Second World War and get ready for it.
Yep.
Because when they go to boot camp, it's a blow in the face. It's a shock. They need to be ready. It's going to happen, so help me. And it's not going to be a skirmish.
No.
It's going to be. But the battle is going to be on the water and in the air.
Yeah. It's going to be
No
a different
beach
dynamic.
hits.
Yeah. They're not going to be invading the beaches like
No,
this.
it's going to be Navy and Air Force.
Yeah. And, I think there's also another element that's going to be involved into it. It's going to be a lot of technological side. And I think we've got to be prepared. We get so consumed in the nonsense of these electronics that when they get shut down and we end up going to war and you can't text message or FaceTime or call anybody anymore, and then you're actually having to fight for survival. I mean, they got to be prepared for this. And
you're almost touching on something. We'll never be prepared until the administration that runs our country gets prepared, and I don't see it happening.
No.
Nope. I stand right there with you on that.
I do not see it happening.
No. The whole America first, America is first.
Yep.
It's my faith first and then America, faith in country, or God in country, the easiest way to say
China
it.
knows this.
Yeah, they do.
They know this.
Oh, yeah. It's very evident. And, the rest of the world sees it too. And it's super unfortunate. But I want to talk about real quick, because you were in New Zealand. When you got word y'all were going to Iwo Jima, you kind of...
No, that never came up.
Okay.
No one ever mentioned... That happened with Roosevelt at his office. No, we did not know where we were going. That word was never out. Nobody knew it.
Okay.
Well, I'm quite sure that our general knew it. I know he knew it.
Yeah.
But it never got out. This was top secret. We did not know it until we woke up one morning at 5 o'clock and saw the battle.
Was it so in
We
February?
were 3 miles off the beach, and we had little ducks, alligators.
Yeah.
That went right up on the beach. That's what we loaded into. Then we knew where we were.
So you went in completely blind, unknowing.
Had no idea.
Unbelievable.
No idea and it was never mentioned. We never thought about it.
Facing certain death. And we've talked, and I said it's probably been 2018, and I remember your story. You hit the beaches and you laid face first on the ground. And I swear to God, I still tell this story to everybody I encounter whenever I speak about you, because it's moved me deeply just to hear the words that you uttered, knowing obviously complete uncertainty. You're storming these beaches. You have a flamethrower on your back, and you laid down and said what?
Yeah. If we laid down, I better have a man on my left and right because I can't get up.
Yep.
But you see, when I got up over the beach, you hit the first shell hole, I lost him. I didn't have him. I had to be very careful. So I just got down there and on the side of the bank and sat upright so that I could get up. It was bad. I lost those two buddies of mine, and it was all a shock, a surprise to us.
And you said you had a conversation with God, though, at that moment.
Oh, I tell you, on the beach. I forgot to tell you about that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to talk.
I never forgot it.
Yeah.
All those years, we hit the beach. I lay face down on that sand, my first beachhead. a lot of it. John Bass alone was to my right. He came back with us. He got shot right there. He never got up. A sniper got him. I lay there and I said, I don't know what to do. And I tried something. Now you have to remember something. Depression kids did not spend time in church. We didn't have decent clothes. We didn't. We had a couple of shirts and a pair of pants, and my mother would sponge press them, do her best to make them look nice. We didn't like it, but we wore them. And tennis shoes, we never knew what a beautiful pair of Oxfords was. Until after the war, of course, we had clothes and shoes in the Marine Corps, you know. Polished shoes. I didn't know how to polish a pair of shoes. Our DI said, listen, you bird brains, when I come and inspect those boots, and these were that rough ankle tops,
Oh, yeah.
I want to see my face in it. And he turned around and walked out. I said, how's he going to see his face in that brushed leather? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to try and do my best, Buddy says. And by gosh, you could see an image.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, we worked on it. Oh, man, we really, I'm getting Now, there's discipline.
Yes.
So your conversation with God. I haven't heard this one. I want to hear your
Yes,
conversation
I
with
forgot
God.
to complete on that. I said, I'm going to talk to God. My mother always said, God's going to get you when we do something bad. And I said, why does she always say that? God wouldn't do that. Well, then it got to me to thinking, you know. So I don't know. I had the fear of God. I really did, but didn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I knew.
You didn't have the relationship. You just had the fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had no close relationship, but I knew that he had to be. Things just can't happen this way. Well, I said, God, I don't know much about you, but if you can do for me what folks say, and you get me off this, I don't know, I'll serve you the rest of my life. I didn't realize what I was saying, but God did.
Mm-hmm.
And God does not forget.
Nope.
Well, I went through that battle all those 6 weeks. I was in a foxhole with two of my buddies. We had no squad. We were down hardly, well, look at 18, 20 of us there. And I was sitting back against, I didn't have my flamethrower. I carried a carbine. Didn't need it then because they were down by the water. Unless they come back at us, and they did at nighttime. But that's as far as they would go. Well, so I was looking for snipers. So I got up on the ground right there, elbows there, and I'm looking like that, looking. I dropped back down as I can't see anything out there. So I got on the horn, and I said, Graves to company CP. And they said, Graves, go ahead, what's up? I was just looking for snipers about 15 minutes. I can't see anything. Well, you better continue looking because our first sergeant just took a sniper around his thigh. We just sent him to the medics. He said, you better keep it. By the way, you got a kid coming for a replacement. And I said, good, we can use him. So about 10, 15 minutes later, I'm sitting there, crawls up the top of the hole, and he said, who's Graves? I said, I am. And he jumped in, he says, I'm your replacement. I said, good, sit down over there, be a lot to do tonight. And I said, well, they want me to continue looking, I guess I gotta look. They outranked me, the other two.
Yeah.
And so I got up and I'm looking. I've been there 15 minutes. I dropped back down, I can't see a darn thing. This kid, let me have a look. And I said, no, you get yourself shot. One of my buddies says, give him the glass, that's what he's here for. So I threw the glasses at him. He crawled up where I had been. And we're shooting the breeze, Marine talk. Pew! He fell back. His helmet came off, lit between my feet. I looked down on we were shocked. I looked down on that helmet, and I saw a beautiful young lady sitting in a chair, and in her lap was a baby.
Oh.
I lost it. I jumped up, took everything off me I could, shook my fist in the air, cursed Iwo Jima, cursed the Marine Corps, Curse God. Can you imagine, after making that pledge on the beach? I said, for letting that kid take my place. I didn't understand. My buddy got up, smacked me in the face, and threw me on the ground. They were two older men, married. I got up, put stuff on me, got on the horn again. I said, your replacement just took around the forehead. We're moving. Okay, Graves, we'll send a stretcher barrier that way. We crawled into another hole closer to the water. That was where we stayed till we were released. And I'm sitting there, and I said, you know, we don't drink coffee. Let's have some hot chocolate. They said, good, make enough for 3 of us. Yeah. So we pulled our water together with canteens and in a canteen cup, filled it right up about that far from the top. We diced our hot chocolate in it. At ration bar.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we liked about it. That's all we ate. Well, anyway, it started cooking away. I put demolition on it, lit it, beautiful blue fire. You have to ignite it to go off. And so we're sitting there shooting the bow, and it'll, whoo, smell that? Yeah, let's have it. I said, I think it's ready. Then all of a sudden, hey, Marine, very good chocolato. You bring chocolato here. I said, if you want chocolate, you come and get it. He said, oh, no, you bring here. That actually happened.
Oh, my God.
Golly.
You should have seen the few other holes. They were left their heads off.
Oh, my goodness.
So people write me and say, hey, Graves, tell us the story about the hot chocolate.
That is awesome. I love it.
I'm saving that one.
If I'm on speaking, I'll say, are there any questions? How about the hot chocolate? I don't like it that well, but they like it.
Oh, my goodness. That is awesome.
So when you came home, you did keep your promise to God.
What?
You did keep your promise to God.
Oh, he was around. Yeah,
And
he was still around.
so when did you become a preacher? And when?
All right. You remember that pledge I made on the beach? 9 years following that, 1954, on the 15th of May, I was on a fishing trip. Well, we didn't catch any bass or any fish, but the bottle bass were hitting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I came home. I was in pretty bad shape. Now, my wife and I were not making it. We were talking about separating at the time. I came home to our apartment. She's doing housework. I flopped down on the couch. I was in bad shape. I never expected this. The phone rang. She answered, laid the phone down on the table, and, Don, Mr. Bueller wants to talk to you. Now, this gentleman was from Copenhagen, Denmark. He and his wife, they were wonderful people. They helped us. They were our landlords one time. You could always count on for something good, you know. Mm-hmm. And I said, hello, Peter. He said, Donald, I want to tell you something. I'm going to talk to you, and I don't want you to say one word. You are a mess. I didn't deny that. You are losing your best friends. You're going to lose your wife. I didn't deny that. Would you take my wife and I Billy Graham meeting down in Oshkosh, 16 miles down Lake Winnebago? This is in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Billy Graham?
Yeah.
That's who my father studied under.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He has all of his books.
Yeah.
He
worked
with them and everything.
I'll never forget Billy. Well, the film came on. We're sitting there in the front row of the whole 2,700 people in this place. And they put me right in the front seat, right by the stage, you know, and the screen is wide.
Yeah.
On comes Billy. And this is what he said. Never forget him. You are not your own. You're bought with a price. And that price was Jesus Christ on Calvary. What are you going to do with Christ in your life? You know, you're here tonight. You're without him. You want him. You need him. You come. You receive Christ as your Lord and Savior. He died for you. He forgave you all your sins. Nailed him to his tree. What are you going to do with Christ? You come. Well, later the film ended. And then it was though he was, I swore his finger was right on my nose. I thought he was talking to me.
Right.
I was in bad shape. Then the film ended, and an old preacher got up on the stage, and he said, normally we would go home now, but we're not going to do this night. I know you're here. You're without Christ. You need him in your life. Your life's a mess. And we're going to give you the opportunity to come up with us. We will pray for you, give you a Bible, and send you home. I said, if they do that, I'll go up. They started singing that beautiful song, Just As I Am, without one plea. I love it. And they sang. And I broke up. I just let go. I got up on my feet, and he said, it came back, he said, now we're having an invitation. If you have need of Christ, walk up out of your seat and come around and come up to see us. We'd like to talk with you. And I said, I got to go up. And then a voice said to me, loud and clear, sit down, you fool. What about your wife? Now, we weren't making it.
Yeah.
I said, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work. I turned around and looked at her. She looked at me, got up, took my hand and said, let's both walk up together.
Wow.
We walked up, received Christ as our Lord and Savior. We got a Bible, went home, dropped the couple off, went to our apartment, sat in this overstuffed leather chair, a wedding gift we never sat together in. And here we're sitting together. I've got that Bible on my lap, and I says, I don't know anything about the Bible, but I'm going to open up and put my finger on something.
Start
I'll never
reading.
forget it. And I put my finger down, and this is what I read. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. Nahum 1:7. Never forget it. That was the start of my career of 5 states. And then God suddenly said to me, so you have to retire. So you have to take your wife to your daughters.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not through. I'm still going to use you. And he does. I never forget the Lord in my speeches, no matter where I'm at.
Yep.
I've never had anybody criticize me. Only in Texas. You Texas people out there, you ought to give yourself an applause.
we got some difficult folks.
Yeah, we
sometimes
do.
to deal with.
Yeah. That's why my family came here too. So.
No, that's one of the things when I see your story and I've seen some of your interviews and when I've encountered you at the Stars and Stripes, it's the one thing I've noticed about you is that God resonates through you.
Absolutely.
And then when I hear your story, especially from Iwo Jima, I know that God is speaking through you, and he's brought you here for a reason. You survived the island for a reason. You survived your relationships. You survived everything for a reason.
Isn't it amazing how I went around the circle and wound up in Texas?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm going to die here. Yeah, I'm all set up. My wife and I've got her earned at home.
Awesome.
We cremated. I'm going to be cremated.
Yeah.
I'm going to cheat I know what's going on. I'm going to cheat the preacher out of about $1,500 bucks. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm all set for to her and I go in a vault at the VA,
Okay.
or at the cemetery out there.
Yeah.
Got it all set up, paperwork and everything.
Oh, wow.
I'm in no hurry, but I'm going to go there.
We'll tap the brakes on it.
Just hold off, Lord, for a while. We got things to do.
We got
You
things-
know
we
that.
got things to do.
We got a country to save still. We need Don here. So
Absolutely.
Before we close, whenever we close, I would like to sing God Bless America.
I was going to ask
we were-
you to end it with that.
So
All
we
right.
we
Wherever
are
you say I should go.
we are coming near the end. Do you have anything else that you want?
No.
I mean, we could sit here and talk for 3 hours if they'd let us, but
Look, I know we've highlighted it, but I like to end these episodes with just like give you, the platform real quick. What message I know we've talked about the generational gaps and some of the issues, and then what words do you have for this next generation who might be lost, or these individuals who might be lost? Do you have words for them?
And I'd like to add something else to that. Our audience, this goes up on fireengineering.com. So our audience is primarily veterans and firefighters. And I'd like you to add a message on an addendum to that, to them, to keep them going.
Yeah, I speak at galas, banquets, raising funds for the firemen and the police. especially the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
And it just moves me because what they died doing was just as important as fighting a war. The same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The same thing. And they're heroes. They're American heroes. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I wish people would understand when they see a fireman, and I know most cops in this area here, Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, now know Judge O'Hara real good. He just interviewed me about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had a great time. He's an Irishman, you know. Both of us are Irish, and we talked. He was the one that told me, Don, if you go back again, stay away from Belfast. Go to Dublin. Well, it's very difficult, fellas, because the system has got a hold of them. And those that run the system, excuse the language, but just don't give a dang. Mm-hmm. They don't care. They don't care about our country. That's obvious. And this is the lowest I have ever seen America, and I'm 98 years old. I remember, I've always been one that loved my country, but I've found to love it all the more when I received the Lord Jesus Christ in battle. I didn't know it at the time, but it became a reality at a Billy Graham meeting. Billy Graham sent me he sent me a beautiful letter back. Yeah. And I've got a beautiful letter from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
A birthday greeting.
Oh, wow.
And I said
That's
to my
incredible.
2 kids, I said, Donald Trump doesn't know me. And then it dawned on me, Mad Dog, the general,
Yes.
his Secretary of Defense told him.
Yeah.
We've been at meetings together. He's a great guy.
That's awesome.
Incredible.
That is-
We ready to end this out with the song?
Yeah, let me
got
say our
some
little
good-
outro,
Yep.
and then I'm going to have you just close this whole thing out with God Bless America. Can you do that for us?
Let's do our outro, and we'll cue you in.
So, personally, thank you for being here with us. It's my absolute honor and privilege just to sit here before you to hear your story. And, you know, this thing has been bringing tears to my eyes. I've got goosebumps.
Yep.
This is something I've dreamed of for the last several years to finally get to happen. And I hate that it's taken so long, but COVID and all this other nonsense that's been out there.
Never turn it down. Never turn anything down that you can do for your country.
Absolutely.
And especially serving the Lord.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You bet.
The
Lord has a hand in this right now.
He does,
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I just thank you so much for being here, supporting Sons of the Flag,
Thank you.
supporting our mission, Landon.
I couldn't thank you enough. It's
Well,
we've been looking forward to
We need
this.
more of you fellas.
Thank you.
I've been to 3 different groups like this, and you're all the same.
Yeah.
You're all the same. And you're doing something for your country.
We got a lot of them out there. We just got to give them the platform that
Yeah.
speaks louder
Yeah.
than the other ones. That's the thing. We got to give them a louder platform.
You might be a little radical. Well, that's all right. Jesus Christ was radical.
He was radical.
Absolutely was.
So, if you want to hear this show, Fire Engineering, Blog Talk Radio, Sons of the Flag, sonsoftheflag.org. Hit up Sherry.
And this will be our first visual episode, so that's going to be exciting.
Yes, this is exciting. So I'm going to pass it to you, brother.
Something I forgot. You mentioned Sherry.
Uh-huh.
I have to tell you something. I have had a lot of public speaking meetings. It's slowed down because of that COVID.
Yeah.
Somehow we can't get back where we were.
Yeah.
It's slow.
Yeah.
You know that.
Oh, yeah.
But I got to tell you something. The greatest group that I've ever spoken to was Sons of the Flag.
It's awesome.
I look forward to all the times that I'm invited. The only piece, that I was disappointed in was last year when I spoke with you, Sherry wouldn't give me 2 pieces of pie.
Yeah.
I wanted 2 pieces of pie. Sang 2 songs.
See, that's why you do what I do. Sit at the extra table that has the open seats
Yes,
and just say
that
they're
was-
coming back because you'll get whatever you need.
Did you hear that, Sherry?
There's a strategy in this. So
All right. God bless America.
yes, please.
God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, wide before. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it so much.
I love it.